The deep south of the United States, just before the Civil War. The dilapidated Falcon Nest plantation, run by widower Orrin Maxwell and his son Hammond. A slave trader arrives at the farm, and Orrin asks all the workers to line up in a row to bargain for anyone who might be interested. Roundly scrutinizes the men. The slave trader buys 3 dark-skinned laborers, assuming they will be tough enough for the hard work. Hammond returns to the farm and learns from Lucretia that one of the slave girls has fallen ill. Big Pearl has a high fever and is barely out of bed. Learning that the girl is still innocent, her father and the slave trader offer Hammond to take the beauty. A little later, at the dinner table, proudly advises Orrin to use the little boy to cure the Great Pearl. All he has to do is place the slave at his feet and crush him as if he were a grape from which all the juice must be squeezed. In the evening, Lucretia and another servant help Big Pearl wash and add manganese to the water to make it smell pleasant to the white master. Hammond visits the innocent and tries to be as delicate and careful with her as possible. At the same time, he does not forget that this is an employee who is willing to tolerate any whims and wishes. Hammond and Big Pearl make love, after which the man returns to the house. Once near the barn, he hears that the butler Agamemnon is reading a prayer and scolds him for this, because slaves should not be able to read, write, or pray. On his return to the house, Hammond tells his father about it, but he is busy with his sore feet. After putting the boy under them, Orrin orders the butler to be severely punished, using salt, pepper, and other spices that can cause burning and pain to sprinkle on the wounds. Back in his bedroom, Hammond prays, after which he makes love to Big Pearl again to finally cure her of all her ills. The next morning, Hammond orders the butler to be stripped and hung by his feet. Choosing one of the slaves, the white master orders Agamemnon to be beaten and ignore his cries or pleas for help. At one point, an unknown guy bursts into the barn and starts beating the butler even harder. As it turns out, it is Charles, Hammond's cousin, who has visited their plantation to ask for financial support. Orrin is willing to help his relative and give him some money, but offers to make the investment. Charles has a charming younger sister, and the father suggests his son look at her as a potential bride. A couple of days later, Hammond and Charles go to Mr. Wallace's plantation to buy Mandingo, a dark-skinned man from Africa. Charles and Hammond have spent a lot of time on the road, so their master offers to stay the night and gives them 2 charming slave girls. Upon learning that one of them is innocent, Charles takes the other and takes her by force. Hammond is shocked at the cruel treatment, but the cousin insists that the slaves do not deserve better treatment. Moreover, they agree to such cruelty. Hammond invites the other girl to his bedroom and shows her respect. Ellen is greatly embarrassed and obediently follows the man's orders. After taking off his shoes, she notices that Hammond is limping, and he tells her about a childhood injury resulting from a fall from a horse. Hammond does not insist on spending the night together, but the girl feels sympathy for him. Ellen likes his respectful attitude and wants Hammond to be her first man. The next morning, the man goes to the market and notices that one of the slave traders is selling a young and strong Mandingo. The woman checks the slave's household and is ready to pay generously for him. But Hammond raises the bid and wins the auction. His father has long dreamed of a Mandingo fighter to win fights and make money from it, so he is happy to make it a reality. Sometime later, Hammond goes to Charles's family home and meets his potential bride. Blanche dreams of running away from home and is ready to marry the first man she meets, only to avoid seeing her own brother, who took her by force a few years ago. After getting to know her future fiancé, Blanche agrees to become his wife and kisses Hammond, who has legalized the marriage in a nearby hotel to spend their wedding night. Hammond and Blanche make love, but the man is left unsatisfied as he realizes that he is far from her first. He asks for the name of the man who robbed her of her honor, but the wife ignores his question, afraid of further consequences. In an attempt to distract himself from his wife, he goes to a brothel. Madame Caroline's girls are ready to provide services for free, but the man is not ready for treason and drinks alcohol to wash away his grief. Madame Caroline's servant notices Hammond's slave in the garden and tries to chase him away. A fight breaks out between the slaves and the whites notice it, but they do not stop what is happening, but make bets. Matt emerges victorious and knocks out his opponent, allowing Hammond to win some money. One of the spectators offers double the price, but Matt's owner refuses to sell him. The man then offers to arrange a fight between their fighters in 2 months, and Hammond agrees. On his way home, the man stops by Mr. Lee's and buys Ellen, not hiding from Gina the fact that she will not only be a slave, but also his mistress. Upon arriving home, Hammond introduces Blanche to her father, In the bedroom, he warns his wife that he has no intention of getting into the same bed with her, as she was not innocent on their wedding night. Oren decides to use Matt not only as a boxer, but also as a breeding bull. He decides to send him to Purr, unafraid of the fact that on paperwork she is his sister. Soon Hammond and his father begin to prepare Mandingo for future fights. To do this, he must bathe in a large cauldron of hot salt water to toughen his skin. Blanche turns into an alcoholic and quarrels with her husband. Oren asks his son to make up with her, but he avoids bed and goes to spend the night at Helene's. Ellen announces that she is pregnant and asks for the gift of freedom for their son when he becomes of age. A few days later, Hammond learns that a group of Mr. Bullis's slaves have escaped by rioting. Cicero and several other slaves have taken the lives of 4 men, so the whites band together to capture them. Hammond and Matt pursue Cicero, but he manages to hide in the woods. Matt grabs the fugitive but immediately releases him, not wanting to be responsible for his execution. The whites capture Cicero anyway and publicly execute the slave with a noose. Soon Hammond and Matt are off to a duel. Meanwhile, Blanche gets drunk and summons Helene to be up the girl. Helene pleads not to and informs her that the gentleman's mistress is in a position. The enraged Blanche beats the girl, but Lucrezia stands up for her. Helene flees, but Hammond's wife pursues her and pushes her down the stairs. Matt and Topaz meet in the ring. After learning that only one must survive, his opponent beats up Matt by biting his legs and scratching his back. Hammond is willing to surrender to preserve the slave's life, realizing that his master is not as stale as other whites. Matt gains the upper hand and gnaws on his opponent's throat like a wild dog. The owner of Topaz again offers to sell Mandingo, but Hammond refuses and takes Matt home. On his return to the plantation, Oren learns that Helen has lost her child because of Blanche's inappropriate behavior. He asks Lucrezia to hide this fact from Hammond so that he does not divorce his wife. The man proves his love to the slave and gives her earrings with rubies. He then meets his wife and gives her a necklace with the same gemstones. Oren wants grandchildren and woos the couple in the bedroom to make love and give him a grandchild. In the evening, the family gathers for dinner, and Blanche makes a scene when she sees the precious earrings on Helene. Back in the bedroom, the couple scandalizes again, and Blanche confesses that her first man was Charles. A couple of days later, the family sells off the slaves, but Hammond won't let the baby be sold. He takes Ellen with him, not as a slave, but as a woman accompanied by the boy. Bringing Matt to her room, she threatens the boxer and promises to tell her husband that he took her by force if they don't make love. With no choice, Matt agrees to get into the same bed with the white woman. A short time later, Hammond returns home and learns that Big Pearl has given birth to a son with Matt. He rejoices at the arrival of a new fighter on his plantation and shows the boy to Oren. Blanche meets her husband and his father, revealing that she is pregnant and expecting a child. Helene is distressed by this, but Hammond reassures her, promising that his attitude towards her will not change in the slightest. A few months pass and Blanche gives birth to the baby. When the doctor discovers that it is a dark-skinned boy, he unties his navel, causing the baby to fall into eternal sleep. Hammond goes up to the second floor to support his wife in a difficult moment, but sees the baby and realizes that it is not his child. Back at the doctor's office, Hammond asks him to bring a vial of poison used to take the lives of old slaves and horses, and to put the poison in the punch. Hammond treats his wife and rubs shoulders with her. Grabbing a rifle, the man goes to the slaves and asks Matt to prepare a cauldron of hot water. The other slaves hide, realizing the danger. Hammond orders the fighter to get into the boiling water, but he refuses. Matt tries to explain that he is the victim of blackmail. The white master shoots him. He first wounds the slave, after which he fires a second shot, and Matt finds himself in the cauldron. Grabbing a pitchfork, Hammond tries to finish off the traitor who has decided to go to bed with his wife. Agamemnon grabs a rifle and points it at Hammond, begging him to spare Mandingo. Oren defends his son and incurs the wrath of his own insult to life, then flees. Hammond kneels helplessly in front of his father's corpse, and the movie ends there.